Yeah, I would.
So,
And I don't know when that's going to be done. The highway stuff is going to change.
It's not going to stick.
Quite fast. It's changing.
that's the thing.
So,
It's true. I'll keep on
yeah,
the
there
carriage.
is. So, what you be at the junctions on it.
Yeah.
So,
No.
the area one, which is.
Do
you actually going to hospital street?
It's only because it's having its first MOT tomorrow. So it had the 1 series MOT
It
done.
was, right,
So it's all that.
I think.
Welcome everybody. Parish Council meeting of the 9th of June. Welcome members of the public. Apologies, at the moment we've just got Councillor Hicks is going to be arriving because she's got another meeting, a clash there. And do we have any, Councillor Ransley's given his apologies. And do we have any declarations of interest over and above our normal declarations? No. Excellent. Okay. We then move to public comments and observations. Do we have anybody who wishes to speak tonight, Pete? Would you like to come forward, sir? Speak nicely and clearly into the microphone.
For the South London draw will suffice. Good evening, Council. Good evening, everybody. I'm mixing my report up a little bit tonight. I'd like to start here with my sincere and deepest congratulations for a first-class annual electors meeting, one of the best I attended, and of course your annual fete. I thought they were both excellent. I think it said everything about you as people, you as a council, how you function, and I hope the residents really appreciated, and your electors appreciated all what you do. And I thought the two events were excellent. And you know what to say as well, as we move forward with the lack of clarity about where we might stand with ACC, ABC, possibly the abolition of the PCC, the Crime Commissioner, and the police reorganisations. I'll say it more and more at every meeting. The strength going forward will be for you in this room, you as a council, you looking after the community. That will be the base I will be proud and privileged to support. My report here is reasonably upbeat. There has been a theft of mowers from a series of churches, and I've taken action to bring together a group of all sorts of vicars, canons, secretaries, etc. in the church family. And if there's any future incidents in any churches in the Ashford district, I will have an alerted system. The water shortage, yes, that was a little bit awkward and surprising. I came to this distribution point to learn how it works, to see the staff are okay, to pick up some water so that in my travels supporting vulnerable victims, I have water on board to assist them, and to ensure that people were registering on the at-risk register. And that's all included in the report, so it's in your briefcase, in your back pocket, and even if it's the wrong water company in certain areas, they will interchange and give each other details of people at risk. I have concern that there were certain at-risk people across the Ashford district, not so much in this area, where they were failed with water deliveries, etc. And we need to look at that, and I'll undertake that. Crime generally, off-road motorbikes, catapults, etc. I was in touch with the Crime Commissioner today. That work is ongoing and won't stop. I take no apologies to say that I have had to take one issue on a national matter of the violence against women and girls. I did draft a letter to the Attorney General and to the Home Secretary on the appalling sentences awarded to 3 rapists who raped 2 young girls at knife point and circulated those attacks on video and the judge saw fit to say that they did not deserve a custodial sentence. As I said, I drafted letters. I didn't send them because in actual fact the Attorney General worked very quickly and lodged an appeal against the sentence. But I have written to both MPs for Ashford and to Rosie Duffield, who controls our area to the north in Canterbury, to say would they please monitor the situation in Parliament. I found it wholly unacceptable, and if we're going to make great speeches about violence against women and girls, and Chairman, if we cannot rely on the Crown Court judge, we are in deep trouble. I will watch matters about fuel theft, crisis, etc. in a particular number plates is a particular concern. The last part, Chair, and I thank you for your patience for those few extra minutes. I had written in the report to you that I am preparing a briefing document to hand to you all, regardless of what hat you wear, and those that are not here in these chairs, and A-Line who's arriving late tonight, but whatever area you're in, there is going to be a public consultation about changes to the fire cover, changes that may include station closures, and matters that discuss budget pressures. I was somewhat disappointed, and it certainly changed my life in the last 24 hours, that there was a leak yesterday where an email was sent by senior fire people that somehow got into the public domain. And now it's out there, airs are running, because station closures have been targeted and announced, and I'm sure that is a great concern to the public. What I'm going to produce in a briefing document will be to ensure that people like yourself are not bogged down in jargon, that there is some layperson's words that you can follow about some of the technical terms in the fire brigade, although you have an interpreter on hand tonight, and to ensure that we stay focused initially, because although this is in the public domain, Chair, the public consultation should not start until late June, so we have time. But the briefing document I will be there will initially say, are we looking at a budget pressure where government and the KCC have not provided with the fire authority the funding to run the fire service? Are we looking, as I know we are, at a number of areas where it's been difficult to recruit on-call firefighters? They are people that respond from their homes and from their workplace in probably rural areas to turn out for the fire service. Or are we looking at fire cover that we may need to look at as we move toward 2030? I feel the issue has become jumbled. I feel the public will be concerned, and what I don't want to happen is suddenly onto your clerks and into your inboxes as individual councillors that lots and lots of questions arrive that are suddenly with us that should have come in a steady consultation process where we could have learned what they're trying to achieve. So that document is actually going to be worked on when I leave this room tonight. It's coming along. It sets out all what the terminology is, all what the stations are. But at the moment, as we stand in this area, the document says that they will possibly close Chilham Fire Station and Wye Fire Station, both which provide valuable backup to Ashford. And it will look at removing the second fire engine that's stationed at Ashford. Now, there's all sorts of terminology that I could use, and I want to keep the terminology very simple. I want to keep it simple. And if, for instance, that there is a station closure, if it's due to lack of recruitment and an inability to recruit, then let's say that. Let's not try and mask it with budget pressures and things like that, because the jumble will not give us clarity as we move forward. So that's where I'm at, Chair, and I'm sure that provoked a number of questions with people. But I thank you for your support as always. That's invaluable to me. And as I said at the start, you know, your work with your annual electors meeting and your work with your fate is not just about all the enjoyment that a latter provides and the information to the people that come on the night. It allows me to interact with the people that we have the honour and privilege to serve. And on that day, I gained many new members. I was able to engage with people about what's worrying and troubling. And the reason I don't have a stall at your event, which I'm obviously offered, is because I like to be mobile and I like to go where the conversation takes me. And at the end of the day, in simple terms, Chair, if you're standing in an ice cream queue, you're a captive audience for me. If you've got a stall, you might not come over and see me. But thank you for your time tonight, and I know you've been gracious with a few extra minutes. Are there any questions, please?
Yes, I think Councillor Cosgrove and then Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for the update. Just a couple, one incidental, bit of gossip. The Kensington Country Railway down Tennyson is in the line fire season. And there was a line fire the other last week, and the fire engine turned out from Maidstone. Because the locals reported that the local fire station, which serves Tennyson, was not operable because there were no volunteers there. The other one is on your comment about the water supplies. This matter came up at CALC, and it was the subject of Chief Executive's briefing number 17, which was circulated to the parish, and we read it. And they are asking the statutory supply strategy or statutory suppliers. So they are looking at this sort of thing. And one of the comments that came up from the discussion at CAL was this could be a subject matter of our emergency resilience plan. Well, it's certainly it's not in there at the moment, not on the template, but it may be something for us to consider on a future update.
The two questions are exceptionally important. The first one, that is one of the problems that an on-call fire station might not be available, but that's a recruitment issue, and the fire service should be coming forward with proposals about how they intend to recruit. If they cannot recruit, then they need to look at alternative matters. But I'm not shocked in any way, shape or form that it was probably an appliance from Mason that was sent to cover. On the second point, I have done considerable work on the resilience plan. In fact, your clerk sent me your plan to have a look through, and I thought it was a very good plan. What I would say, I think two things that should go into it, and I'm prepared to work with your clerks to help if they need it, is one, obviously, the failure with the water supplies that occurred, which is there, and that should be in your plan. But secondly, I think you also have to face now that with the problems with the water supplies, that affects firefighting. Hydrants are not like they were in my day when I served, and fire appliances, fires are being attended by more fire appliances because they have to bring water. And I think you have to accept the fact that if there's a considerable blaze in the Kingsnorth area, then the ability to run your washing machine and shower will almost certainly be affected in some areas. Water supplies are very, very poor. And I thought your question was going to take us down, which might go a stage further, which is, at the moment, in places like Chilmington, we only have about 400 houses occupied, where we should have by this stage 1,600. With thousands more following, and thousands more in other areas, and thousands more on the edge of your ground, and 5,000 more coming to them, and 8,000 in Oxford Park. And is this the time when someone much higher up than us needs to be saying, until the water supplies can supply the area of growth, we need to take a breath? That's way above my pay grade as a volunteer. So I think it should be on our agenda, and I thank you for the questions.
Yeah, so I received an email from, I think, that person from the fire service, and there was the list of the different fire stations that were possible up for being cut. And one of the reasons they stated, I think it was probably the main one struck me, was the fact they said it was underused. So therefore, the amount of times that they're being called out is actually lacking compared to other fire stations. So they were saying that's another reason, is that they're saying that they're not being used enough. There's not as much need for them. Then there was a link to a consultation, like a questionnaire on your view. So I guess what they're doing is they've got some sort of consultation out, but then they've got the actual public one coming out later on this month.
End of June, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. What was the other thing I was going to say?
I have to say, in my opinion, the underused thing is a lie.
Yeah, that was like the main point that struck me. But then that's why I said, why would you have two so close together, like Chilham and Wye so close together? And I believe the fire that happened, unfortunately, a really sad fire that happened in Ham Street, I believe the fire service came from Aldington.
No, they were closed. They were unavailable.
Oh, okay. So, but I thought that was on the nearest one. Was
They came from Ashford, and they went the wrong way in Ashford and got held up with these traffic jams that.
So this is another one. And then the concern to me is that the more hotter that obviously our environment does get anyway, like we've got a lot of fields, but that dryness, that could actual fire, you need the fire service, for instance. These are big concerns. So obviously with climate change, we're going to need to have that in place, aren't we?
Well, I mean, your question is very detailed, and I think it's the right, it's exactly what I'd like to be thinking, which is why I started tonight by saying, I feel what's happened with the leak, whatever you want to call it, or the accidental pushing of a wrong button on an email, it's arrived in the community. It is without a doubt the fox in the hen coop, and we're all covered in feathers, and it's all got jumbled up. What I want to know, and what I would hope they would have the courtesy to put before people like yourself who've stepped up to serve the community is this initially a budget shortfall? If this is about the availability of stations due to lack of recruitment, then say that and have plans to address it. If it is the fact they're being underused, there's probably a brain surgeon on duty tonight at William Harvey Hospital. I don't want him to have to do emergency brain operations, but by God, I hope he's there. The lack of use is a very thin article. One of the stations they're going to close is on the Isle of Grain. In my professional experience, I would leave that fire appliance there and hope to God it never has to respond to the Isle of Grain as a fire. The fire authority also has recently withdrawn the fire station on the Channel Tunnel and turned it over to private enterprise. What are the standards? And I feel that was a mistake, because on the night when I was underground fighting the fire, the first Channel Tunnel fire, the integral part was the fire station crew there being bolted onto by the rest of the Kent Fire Service, and in actual fact on that night with mutual assistance the London Fire Brigade come down and covered stations as far as Crewe. So what I would say is, what I don't want at this stage, and where I feel we're at, we've now got panic in the community, questions will be pouring in, and I want to keep it, what's the budget, what's the problem, what are you trying to do, but importantly, what fire cover do we need as we go forward into 2030 as this area grows? And I feel it's all come together in a great heap. We need to put it out, put the emotive arguments, but tonight we've probably now got the public in Wye, in Chilham, in Ashford, where they might withdraw the second fire appliance, really worrying. And I would just finish by saying this, Chair, because you've been so gracious with my time tonight. I cannot imagine, and sadly, although I can because it's happened, when you're in a fire appliance in Ashford and you leave it to a known person's reported in Ham Street, where persistent calls are coming in saying there's definitely children trapped in there, to have a running time of about 8 to 10 minutes, and you can see it for about 8 or so miles away, is a gut-wrenching situation we don't want the modern fire service to be in. It's not very nice. And if it can be avoided by coming together and looking at the budget and saying, before we start chopping limbs off, we can save a bit here and save a bit there. And the duty on you all, I hope, is to respond when the time comes and ask the fire authority to search every avenue of budget, see whether the money can be found before we start hacking front line.
There's nothing worse than constantly being asked on the way to an incident, what's your ETA?
Yeah.
What's your ETA?
Oh,
You can't get once you say, what's your ETA? You can't do it.
Right, I'm going to close that now and invite Councillor Barrett to do his report, but I know he wanted to have a question from Peter.
Yes, just very, very quickly, thank you, Peter.
Can you come up, we've got a new microphone system,
Yeah,
because
100%.
residents have been saying they can't hear us properly.
I can't do that on that speak, fair enough. First of all, I'd just like to concur with everything that you guys have said there regarding the leak. I did some digging today because Peter briefed me on this slightly early junction within the last 12 hours. And I have colleagues at KCC that are on the Kent Fire Brigade Committee, and they intend to push back against this massively. I'm not on the committee myself, I haven't got any experience of it, but I think it's fair to say that they're aghast at what's just occurred. I can't answer any of Peter's questions in regard to what you're talking about, budgets, etc. I don't have the specifics on that. But I can very briefly say that colleagues at KCC are very, very worried about this development and intend to ask a sequence of questions. And I've also been told that when they want to make major decisions, and again, I may be wrong on this, the Chief Executive of the Kent Fire Brigade Association needs unanimity from the Fire Brigade Committee to push ahead on certain situations, which I don't think that they're going to get in this instance. So maybe there's a small ray of light there from a political perspective. From a KCC perspective, where do we start? We'll start with money and we'll end with people. From a money perspective, everything I'm hearing from senior officers and from other colleagues at KCC is that the budget is beginning to run into headwinds for two simple reasons. First, adult social care is ballooning. Secondly, the war in Iran is making everything more expensive. Contracts that are being renegotiated at a higher price than was expected back in January, February when the budget was set. And obviously the fact that reform went for a 3.99% increase in the preset rather than 4.99%. Now, no one's got any problem with keeping the council tax low. I haven't got any problem with keeping the council tax low. In fact, I agree with it. I'm a conservative now. And I'm sure there's some people at home giggling over that, but you know, it's what it is. At the end of the day, though, you have to be able to run a stable, sensible, and balanced budget. Otherwise, you can't provide the core services. Let me give you an example of what's just come out in the news today. The Kent Travel Saver Scheme is what's used by KCC to fund the transportation of children to school. Okay, reform intends to increase that for both major sectors of the public that get it. Those on benefits, universal credit, and those not that pay the full subsidised price by 26%. So, subsidised price for people on benefits is about £170. The non-subsidised price is about £600. The entirety of the opposition at KCC have called this in, an unusual thing to do at a scrutiny committee, but it can be done. And they're basically going to say it's not fair to ask both sections of the community to do a 26% increase. E.g., you're asking people that are relatively well off, they're still getting subsidised bus pass to do a 26% increase, but people that are on benefits don't have a lot of money. They're watching that go up by 20%. Now, everyone has a viewpoint on that, whether that's good or that's bad. What it does tell us, though, is that this administration is prepared to find savings anywhere. And I personally, and it's just my viewpoint, believe this situation will continue to get worse as we go into the autumn and the winter. I generally, at this point in time, from what I heard from senior finance officers over the Christmas period, who are in an R-in where this budget will even work and be balanced, I don't personally believe they'll be able to run a balanced budget across the books January, February of next year. I don't see it possible. I mean, I don't even think we'll be talking about budget gaps at the 30, 35 million pound mark. I think we'll be talking about budget gaps in the 70, 80 million pound mark. And there's only so many pot plants, paintings, and other aspects you can sell off before you run out of things to actually physically sell off. So it's in a load of trouble. So that's the finance side of it. Quickly onto the people side of it. We had the Joint Transportation Board last week, which I provoked a senior officer by the name of Officer Mills to attend and give members a very detailed rundown on the history of Avocet Way in Bridgefield, what was being done, and what's likely to be done. And the very short synopsis of it is this, that it has so far been a complete mess with very little progress. But it does appear that some progress has now been made between KCC and ABC and the developers. He seems very sure of himself, I think is a fair way to say it, that within 2 to 3 months he'll have a definite update and hopefully a timescale as to when Avocet Way will open. So I think that's a really good thing. I did send him a follow-up email and he sent me some bullet points. More than happy to send that to the committee so that you can see the bullet points of what's going to be achieved. But I feel if we can get Avocet Way open, then that leads on to precedents for when the other one that skips my mind, the long road that actually be the car on the outside, you know, Rutledge Avenue. Rutledge Avenue, which will open once all the buildings completed at the Fimbridge side of things. So I think it's fair to say a little bit of political pressure from myself there. You know, with all due respect to the officers making them jump, because I'm not there to be their friends, I'm there to hold them to account and do the job that I'm elected to by members of the public, has led to some degree of things. We've got to keep our fingers crossed, there's no guarantees. And I know myself and Councillor Giles spoke about this in the past, but I'll keep the pressure on as high level as I can at KCC. Aside from that, not a vast amount to report, just day-to-day emails from residents. Happy to have questions quickly, and then I'll leave you to the rest of your agenda.
Councillor Goswell, something.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Yes, we both attended JTB.
Yeah.
And we sort of came, we came away, and it was reported to me also by the councillors that were there, that the mood and tone and disposition of the KCC officers in particular show very little respect for the workings of the council. Now, the Borough Council officers were professional and they addressed the committee correctly, but the KCC officers did not. And it was everything was on first name terms. They spoke about the chair on first name terms, all very pally, which does show a lot of disrespect for the body.
Is that something, Jeff, that you'd like me to take to the hierarchy at KCC and indicate that you'd like it done a little bit more formally as a member of CALC attending that meeting? Is that what you're saying to me?
I think a lot of people have the same feeling. First name terms, use first name terms in the council chamber.
It is a normal, the JTB is an advisory committee, basically.
Still,
Yeah.
see, Borough Council, and other things going on. It was just struck and people didn't.
I mean,
Surprised enough to mention it.
I'm perfectly happy to take that up with officers. I mean, you're obviously well aware that the sole officer that we get in attendance is Jamie Cunningham, who's a
I
depot
wasn't going to
manager.
mention names.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, look, we've not done anything wrong by naming the name of an officer that works for a council. They get paid by us, bottom line. I think it's just been the way things have worked over the years. It's just what's the word, a convention that has always been that way because it's an informal working relationship between KCC and ABC.
Well, I've been on JTB for a number of years now, and that was the worst I've seen it.
Okay, so if it's something that's troubled you, I'm more than happy to raise it at the KCC levels. More than happy to raise it with others. If you feel that it was disrespectful, more than happy to. One thing I will say about the JTB, and then I'll obviously close because you guys have got like a big busy agenda ahead of you, is that I asked for a street scene, whatever they're called, officer to attend every time there's a JTB. Why is that important? Because virtually, well, not virtually every, but the vast bulk of the digging up of our roads happens under the contracts and emergency works, SGN, the water works, you name it, okay? And one of the things I would like members of the JTB to be able to quiz that street works officer over is, why is it being going on a week longer than it should have? Why, when we drive past there, instead of seeing 6 blokes working, we've seen 1 bloke work, 2 blokes not working, and be able to actually ask questions. And the issue I've really got with JTB is Jamie Cunningham is a decent, respectful, upstanding member of Kent County Council I've got a lot of time for. But we can't expect him as parish councillors and borough councillors to field every question, reply to every email, and deal with every single issue that Ashford Borough Council's got and its surrounding residents on his own. If we really are going to have an advisory group, we've got to have more than just one KCC officer there. Because otherwise, he's just a conduit. All he's doing is scrubbing. I'll tell you exactly what he did, Jeff. He scrubbed down anything you said, anything I said, and everything the other half dozen people said. And then he went away and spent his working day when he's probably got a lot of other things he could do in a more productive manner for Ashford because he's a depot manager, finding answers to those questions. And that's why I said we have another officer there doing some of the admin work because it doesn't make logical sense. So
Additionally, it was noted that the questions that were asked, because a lot of the time people can tell, aren't sort of tribute to reports and the content of the reports. They just come up with questions that people have asked them to raise. I raised one regarding the fact that it's really the JTB.
you did, yeah.
Or the IFB, whatever it's called. And the chair said, where's that question in our report? So it's almost like they've changed the chairmanship. They're shutting it down to only do questions on the reports that are presented, which is contrary to what you were just saying.
I mean, you've got 2 things to consider there, and I'm on slightly thin ground here, so I'm going to tread carefully. You have a rotation of the chairmanship once every 12 months. It goes between ABC chairman and KCC chairman. You're aware of that. The new chairman is a reform member who has effectively 0 experience of chairman in anything like that. Okay, so she would have an agenda in front of her, and she would probably stick to it and be as polite and diplomatic as humanly possible. She's getting her fix out. And I'm cutting her a lot of slack because reform are not my friends and I'm not theirs. In fact, let's be bottom there. What I'm trying to say to you is if you have any grievances with any way the JTB is, right, you have my permission and my support to write to me as your division member, and I will forward those concerns on to the head of transport KCC, the absolute director, the top guy. There is no one higher. So if you feel as strong as you do, write to me. I'll just forward it on to him and we see what happens. That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good job. Yeah, I had 2, but I've only remembered one, sorry. But the one I'm remembering is I've seen a lot of KCC talking about the restoration works in Remembrance Hill in Folkestone.
Yeah.
And also the Sandgate seawall as well, there's some pieces down there. And that's great, but we've got tons of potholes on Park Farm. And there's been no updates really from KCC into when this work's coming forward. Now, when I walked to the bottom of Bluebell Road, sorry, there's a couple of small potholes there. It looks like someone's dumped a bit of tarmac in there, but hasn't actually sealed it. So it just looks like there's a little bit in there and then gone off. Maybe there was a little bit in a bucket and just put it down, I don't know. But that's what it looks like. And we've got a lot of markings out on Roman Way, fantastic. Hasn't been done yet, but on Bluebell Road and Reed Crescent, which you took a walk with me, and you know how diabolical that is. There's still not any markings on there. Can you please trace that?
100%.
Because it would be nice, as much as I love that people are doing work in Kent, it would be nice to get a little bit of feedback for Ashford. Because it's been quite strong focus on Hive recently.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, and I'm just a bit concerned for my residents and particularly cyclists as well, because they're having to swerve in and out. It's just not on.
Yeah, it is at the stage of danger. To be very brief, because I know the chairman wants to move on. Obviously, we had a contractual change at KCC in regards to roads renewal, proactive repairs. That occurred, I think, at the start of May, from memory, Jamie told me. And they're bedding in, which they do for the first 8 weeks. But there are a vast array of roads that are on the system to be done, including Sleeping Policeman in Park Farm, Brookfield Road, Victoria Road, and a whole list of other roads. I guess there's two things I'd say, Katrina. Firstly, please do come along to the JTB if you're able to, because you can ask the question on anything remotely attached to the agenda. Park Farm, potholes, you're not happy, etc. Jamie can't always sit there and he'll scribble it down. Okay. Then, if you don't get action, you can say, I raised it at the JTB, which is the preferred avenue for doing that. The second thing is, I will go away and email Jamie and I'll say, when are the roads in Park Farm, e.g., the roads we talked about, and the ones adjacent to it, actually going to be filled?
My apologies, you have given me that advice before, but because I work full time, and I also am in lots of different committees, 2 separate councils, and mother, I've got to try and fit that in. I don't have time to go to every committee. I do apologise about that. That's why, in some ways, I raise it with yourself, because I know that you're going to go to it.
I will send an email tomorrow morning to Jamie and ask him for a full update. I'll CC you in.
Thank you.
Peter, and I'll-
Thank you.
Email me.
Yes, I'm going to bring this to
Next questions.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Do we have any feedback from the Kent Police? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Can we then move on to agenda item 3, which is approval of the minutes? There's one minor amendment on item 2, which was a number of people who voted for the election of vice chair. I think it had been 7, it was 8.
Is it? Vote for myself.
Yes, there was 2. Okay, I'm happy to propose to those amendments, chair.
Have a second.
Second, have you got it? Everybody vote? Very much. Then agenda item 4, you'll be very patient. Speak you better. Take the host. Thank you very much. This is to receive, to review the grant application by Park Farm Rangers. Do you lead on this or do you?
I was a councillor, and we had the application
In front of us? Are there any questions? Ms. Beaver.
Yes, I have. I was actually wondering whether or not we could actually defer this decision, because I've looked at the numbers, looked at the figures. You've sent through the constitution, which is great, and the bank details. That's super. And obviously, we want to be able to support our farm rangers. But looking at the accounts, if you compare it with our policy asks for a recent set of audited accounts. And unfortunately, the P&L is just one date, almost like a snapshot in time. A P&L has to be from one date to another date, so that we know where we stand with that, if that's possible. The other thing that I found an issue with, or a couple with, that the project itself, as stated, was £6,839.08 on the form. And then Pete got back to me, we had a whole load of numbers, but the kit costs were £5,022.50. I couldn't make the numbers work with the 6,839. I tried, and I just wondered whether it would be possible that we could look at them again, and we could offer some support in actually doing that, to actually get the right set of audited accounts and the quotations and estimates. Because I'm not sure whether we can do it if, the way I look at it, I've done quite a few of these applications for grants, and they tend to, you know, it's quite normal to go backwards and forwards just to check that that's right. And they give you.
Sorry, is that, you know, 5,000 there, is that including that? And stuff like that?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So, no, yeah.
Can we pause there,
Yeah.
Councillor McGee, and see if you can answer any of those questions?
Right.
Yes, so on the accounts, we're not,
Would you like to introduce yourself?
sorry, Andy Monroe, and I'm the Assistant Club Secretary and Grants Officer at Park Farm Rangers Football Club. So in terms of the annual accounts, because we're just a small club association, we're not required to provide audited accounts. They are just literally accounts which are produced by the club treasurer. Those ones, I'm no longer the club treasurer, but those ones you've got were actually produced by me. So I accept what you're saying, that they are for a 12-month period, so they could be amended to say for the period. I mean, I work in the bank, and most of the accounts I see do just say on there for the year ended. So they do say that, they don't say from the state, so that they part of the, but that's where they are. We're not required to have them audited because of size, and they're regulated, they're checked by people when they're approved the AGM. But previous grants that we've applied for have been based on exactly that information.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry about that, but that was looking against the policy about what we have, what we've laid down as a council about what we expect. And there's nothing against you, nothing.
no, that's fine. It's whether you would expect
It's just,
see the council, but the institution isn't required to be producing.
yeah, management accounts, or when you say year ended, then yeah, if we could have a time frame,
Which part of the policies does it state that in there? Can you clarify that?
What's that?
yeah, I mean,
Current law students policy.
yeah,
Because you will get some organisations that wouldn't be too small to.
I mean, part-time, I didn't rely on to accounts, they gave us exactly the same as what
yeah,
part-time rangers have done. To be honest, even the village schools that are audited, they're with the Charities Commission, which they have to be audited, but all the other grants we provided hasn't provided audited accounts because they don't get them audited.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I do feel that we need to be able to show very clearly, say that when none of us are around in 10 years' time, somebody was looking at our accounts and seeing what we were doing, we have to be very, very clear and show that we went through the proper processes. And I'm afraid that if we've done something like that in the past, it doesn't mean that that's what we do in the future.
Yeah, I think for me,
I think we need to be very clear, and I wasn't clear with the figures that I was given.
okay, I think there's two different things here, Councillor McGee. One is understanding the figures presented in a format that makes sense to us, which is the separate thing. And the other one is this in breach of our policy?
Yeah.
And I look to the manager, is the application in breach of our grants policy?
No, I don't believe it is based on what we've done in the past.
No, that's not the same thing. The question is, what does our grants policy say with regard to the financial information that should be provided when applying for grant?
Okay. On your numbers, can I just check how you got them? Because one of the documents I produced was just evidence to support how much it costs. So it wasn't to be added on top of.
I got 3 sets of accounts, and I got a shopping basket,
Yeah.
which had
15466.
1546, but with no explanation. shopping basket with 297 and 1546 didn't mean anything, it was just sitting there. 4X, which is 345, and then the kit costs. And I added them all up and I thought, well, is this everything? But unless it's clear, what I'm saying is I'm not here to feel about justifying it, and I'm sure I'm sure you're right. It's just we have to be above board. I mean, that's what I feel. I'm a new member here, but which is why I've not seen it.
Did you raise the question with,
Okay.
councillor Wedgbury?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As you were aware, I was hand up before Councillor Stevens started speaking, and the conversation so far hasn't changed my mind. I was going to move, we do the grant immediately. There's a number of reasons why I support, in particular, giving part-farm ranges a list of grants and grants in the past, and hopefully they can grants in the future. Is as far as I've been living here for 25 years. Part-farm Rangers has been around for 25 years. They supported the community, their efforts and their hard work, and they're all volunteers. We have to emphasise they are all volunteers, so they give up a lot of their own time. I know how much Andy gives up. This organisation has ensured that many children support their community, avoid antisocial behaviour. It clearly reduces things like listening and vandalism and the work that they do. So I can't see any reason for us not to give them this grant. So I hope the rest of the council will follow me with the grant tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Can I just summarise where I think we are? We've got two issues here. One is about whether or not the application is in line with our grants policy. And that's the first question I'm seeking guidance on.
If the council want audited accounts, then we'd have to. The word is audited accounts.
It does.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we have had applications in the past from small organisations that don't have audited accounts, and we have done that in the past. And I know what Councillor McGee was saying, just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean to say that that's the right thing to do. So I do think we need to amend our grants policy. And when I've looked at grant policies in the past, you often have different criteria for different size organisations. So if they're a very small little organisation, you're not going to expect them to have audited accounts, because they wouldn't. You know, it could be somebody who wants to run a particular event, for example, and only asking for £200. They wouldn't have an audited account for something like that. So maybe we need to have to go back to our own grants policy and split it in terms of operational values or something like that. So we've got an issue here in that the application technically is in breach of our current policy, but in the past we haven't taken that as how we've accepted it. So I'm going to put it to members first about the policy, and then we can move on to the detail about the particular grant application. Are members happy on this occasion to accept that the interpretation of the grants policy as stands is appropriate for processing this application?
Does that mean?
I have a question. You throw me away. It doesn't change my mind.
No,
I think you've got.
There's two things here. One is about, are we in breach of our own policy? And it doesn't really matter about the money. The other one is then to approve the grant. And what we have is a challenge that this could potentially be against our own policy, and we can't make decisions that are against our own policy.
Can I just ask a question? Does it state in our policy at the moment that we require audited accounts for a certain amount of money?
No, it just says audited accounts, and it does not specify the amount of money.
And I don't breach of our grants.
So if we need to, if it's in our grants policy that we specify we need audited accounts in order to process it, then we should be following that policy, shouldn't we?
We should, but that policy obviously would then eliminate lots of small organisations that don't have audited accounts, and that's not a problem.
So you're asking to change the word.
We will need to amend our policy to accept that small organisations don't have audited accounts, have the ability to apply for a grant. But as it's currently worded, our policy says audited.
But without the cash qualifier.
Yeah.
We can then set those limits.
So.
So are we saying, so could potentially be the proposal that we, that provided that the policy is changed to word that first, we would process the application as a council, provided that policy is changed to coincide with it.
That's, for me, being a bureaucrat, there's a sequence here. You can't make decisions against your policy. That's just, yeah, that's ultra-virus. So it's our fault, not the applicant's fault.
No,
Yeah.
also, I'd like to highlight the final paragraph of our policy. Nothing contained herein shall prevent the council from exercising at any time its existing duty or power in respect of providing financial assistance or grants to a local or national organisation under the provision of the Local Government Act 1972, section 137. So we could provide a grant under that power to anyone.
Because I know we have given grants for small amounts of money to small organisations for one and done events and activities.
Section 137.
And section 137.
137 is just.
137.
I was just going to say, section 137 is where the parish council has numerous powers under lots of different acts, like the lots of surveillance, all the rest of it. Section 137 is at our discretion. It's for anything else that's not covered by any other powers that the parish council can have.
And that gets scrutinised and you have to go, and if it was, it would be passed by the officers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the auditor,
The auditor.
our accounts and checks our community grants.
Okay, so first proposal is,
Sorry, I'm coming late, and I missed some of the argument. Sorry, right, but I think part-time rangers have done a lot for the.
that's not the question. It's whether or not we're dealing with a grant application, we're deciding whether or not our policy is appropriate enough for us to make a decision.
Yes, it is.
I just think that we've got enough power to grant this one way or another through one.
Okay, right, I'm going to rephrase my original.
Under 137 we can.
Right, my original proposal is, well, I think there's two things here. One, that we need to review our grants policy to make it absolutely explicit. Yeah. But we do have the powers at the moment to process this application, should we want to, under the existing powers. But I do think it takes Councillor McGeever's point that it needs to be quite explicit for future applications so that people know when they have to do an audited account or whether they just need to give some evidence of what their accounts are. And you're not just giving it to somebody to go on holiday with, something like that. Okay, right, so on that basis, I'm going to make a proposal. Are people happy for us to process this application as it stands tonight? Do I have a second for that proposal? Right, can we vote on it? And are you abstaining or just substance of the application, which is the application itself? Councillor McGeever had some technical questions about how the sums added up. Yes.
Okay, so I can answer those questions. I've just done it. Might need to double check, but I've just got it to agree. So I don't know what you've been given, but my email to Pete gave 3 breakdowns, which was the kit, which teams, how many players, the cost per kit, which arrived at the kit figure. Then there was 2. Sorry, so I haven't printed it off, trying to say the where are we? Kit figure was. The kit figure was 5022 spot 50. £5,022.50. Then I'm not sure why you couldn't see it, Councillor McGeever, but the equipment order that I sent, and I can see on my phone, so I don't know if it's not coming through on my emails, was a whole breakdown by item of what it was we were looking to purchase. And then the basket at the bottom was 1546 spot 64. Then there was a separate basket because under FA rules, our youngest children are changing the format of their games and they're going to be playing in much smaller teams with different sized goals. And it's quite innovative anyway. So we've got to buy goals that we've never used before. So there was a separate quote for those, which was 297.39. The other document, which I did put in the email, was just an invoice for part of the kit which we already paid for, to prove to you how much they do cost. So you can see I wasn't just saying they cost this amount each. So that wasn't part of the figure that it arrived at.
Sorry.
345 was one part of the.
So that's not part of it. So it
No,
wasn't-
but
Sorry, Chair. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this because the 345. I suppose what I'm saying is that when you're applying for a grant, you have to be as clear as you possibly can. And I was muddled with that. You didn't get
Sometimes they
sent,
see that.
you weren't sent them, you weren't sent the figures. I think Pete sent them out.
Well, I asked, based on your request, I asked them to be given to anybody who wanted them, and I think you were the only one.
I was the only one who wanted them, so nobody's sort of seeing the figures that
yeah,
I'm putting out, and which is a bit of a shame, really.
but yeah, I did put in my email to Pete that was there as to demonstrate the cost of the kit as opposed to.
I think if we're going to vote on this, I mean, I've got no objections to Park Rangers. It's just that the numbers have to add up. That's my issue. And I can't get them to add up.
So what?
You put in six, so you saying the kit costs are 502,250. You're saying the shopping basket that's in addition of 297.39 and 154.664. You're saying that those are the three items.
6,655.
Oh, so I'm underquoted, got my maths slightly
Yeah.
too low.
And you see,
I don't, yes.
so the cost of the project, you put down as 6,839 and 8 pence, and then the amount of the grant was 4,000, which is 40% of our budget for grants. So it's a significant amount of money, and it's just really making sure that these numbers add up.
Okay, so we're just going to bring this to the room closed now. My understanding then is that you are not applying for the full amount of the kit.
No,
You're applying for a contribution towards the cost of the kit.
yes.
In which case, if we're reconciled or
Yeah,
to a certain extent.
Some 30
Yeah.
pounds.
So you've made a small error in your calculation.
Sounds like it, yeah, which I
Right,
apologise.
which is why you can't make the figures add
I
up.
can't make any of the figures add up.
Okay, so I think you quite correctly raised your concerns. Do we have a proposal?
I move we can give it a roll.
Do we have a second? Okay, should we vote on it? Okay. Are you abstaining or objecting?
I'm objecting
Okay.
because of the finance and not against Park Farm Rangers.
All right. Thank you very much for raising that, because it's only when somebody needs with a fresh pair of eyes, something that you realise that there is a.
So there's definitely a majority.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Majority voted in favour.
I was, no, sorry, I thought, I mean, did it have to be unanimous? That's.
No.
Sorry, I wasn't sure of that. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. That's it.
Right, so we can move on to any news on local government reorganisation. There isn't anything yet, it's all going to be quiet until July, isn't it?
One of the county councillors told me they reckon 16th of July.
16th of July, well, they said July, didn't they? Okay.
It was raised at CAL, Madam Chair, that they're waiting for the July decision, but maybe it's later September.
Oh, no.
Anyhow, well, we'll keep it standing item, and then when something actually happens, we can then talk about it. Okay, so we then move on to tender evaluation report.
Thank you, Chair. As councillors are aware, we had a requirement, well, one of our aims in our business case was to come up with separate business cases for all of our assets. Now, within the business case, we named about half a dozen assets, of which we picked the top 4. government for Paul's this case. This was predicated by the Borough Council and the change under LBR that and it was confirmed unofficially that Ashford could dispose, keep, enhance or whatever their own assets. But they weren't going to give over any assets without a business case supporting them from the requestor, which would be us.
Yeah.
So of those four of those four assets that we're looking for, which were Central Park, Entrance Park, the buffer zone, and this building, which was ours. They're not all owned by ABC. This is owned by ourselves, of course, and the buffer zone is owned by a number of parties under leases and sub-leases. But in order to move this forward, the parish council engaged with the consultants who gave in an unsolicited cost for the works, which came above our limit for quotation. So we have to go down. £60,000 is the limit above which we must tender, and tendering brings in a whole new ballgame. So we found some four consultants or five consultants. We approached them with a draft scope of works, which was to look at each individual asset, go to one or two public consultations with those assets, facilitate public consultations. So we got the public feed-in of what they wanted to do with the asset, whether we wanted them. It was completely influenced by thinking whether we wanted the asset, whether they wanted to see Ashton still running it or whatever. And then come back to us, work with us to deliver 4 separate business cases, one for each asset. And then we would then, depending on timing, take that to Ashton Borough Council or the Utility Authority, if it was at the time, and request those assets to be transferred to the parish council. Now, the one for this building, obviously, is for our own benefit to take it forward to enhance it, but that depends on what we do down Central Park when we get there. We move things down. So there's a whole load of if buts and maybes and options on the table. Now, the tendering was quite strict. We wrote a tender process document, which we circulated and the parish approved a couple of months ago. Of those 5 consultants, 3 said they would like to tender for the work. And then the tender packages were sent to them, and they had how many weeks? 6 weeks? 4 weeks to come back with a fee proposal, basically, and a lot of other good stuff to convince us that they're the right company. So then we formed a tendering committee, which was myself, Councillor McKeever, and the parish manager, and we opened the envelopes all together, and we marked them and we went through a short tender evaluation where we each looked at them individually, we scored them individually, and then we compared notes and everything else afterwards. We asked for financial accounts, we asked for experiences, similar works, local works, and we also asked for a sample of a business case to do that. Now we had the 3 companies that actually gave us a fee proposal. We called them in this valuation report 10 companies, 1, 2, and 3. It was interesting that the cost range, there was about 28%, 40% delta in the costs, ranging from 43,000 basically to 70,000. So we were about the right bracket, and it was the right decision to go for a tender, not a quotation. As far as our financial readiness is concerned, we were more than covered. We looked at the costs, the programs, whether they provide business cases, and the scores. Now, company 1 as you can see from your reports, was the highest of 74 points, but was the median cost. But they also provided a good business case. They had good examples of public consultation, which is what we need, and understood what we're trying to do. Company 2, which was the cheapest, which is by far the biggest firm, didn't score so much, but they could not provide us with an example business case. They kept producing feasibility studies for very large complex schemes elsewhere, and it wasn't tailored to what we wanted. So it was almost a question of, we were quite small. We were about sort of 9% of their turnover, whereas we were a much bigger percentage of the turnover of Company 1. And they were quite cheap because they didn't really, we didn't look as if they really understood what we were trying to do and ask for. In addition, Company 1, they took the effort to send a representative to visit sites, and Peter took them around the sites and he used the local buses and transportation to assess field-time conditions. And both those companies, 1 and 2, provided good, steady annual accounts for the past 5 years. Well, 3 years we asked for, 5 years they had. So it was good, steady work with good, steady turnovers. Company 3, on the other hand, they scored the lowest. Their programme for the works was much longer. And bear in mind that if we go out to contract in beginning of July, we're not going to get these business cases back until the end of October. And that timing plays very nicely with the Borough Council. But they were 19 weeks, and they offered a range of options, the highest of which was £69,500, and really matching our scope to their price. It was the only one that was relevant to us was the highest one. So that's what we did, the highest number. The report is there for all members to look at. Scoring sheets are there, the comments are there on each one. And by the way, Company 3 also had no accounts whatsoever, because they were only formed less than a year ago, so they haven't got the first set of accounts. And they were located in somewhere in Wales.
Wales.
Yeah, one was Company 2 was Canterbury, Company 1 was Surrey. So they're both within an hour and a half of us. Whereas Company 3 was deepest dives near Wales somewhere.
Should we move questions? Any questions from members? Strikes me as being quite thorough.
It's not really a question, more of my observation is that Company 1 appears to be the strongest.
Councillor McGeevy, you're on the team.
Yes, I was most impressed with Company 1. And sometimes it's the small things. And we asked for the business case, and that was quite impressive actually, because they were very reluctant to give us this business case. And the reason they gave was the GDPR.
Right.
Okay. And that is reassuring. I feel it's very reassuring on our part, because we will have stuff that we don't want spread around. And then they did send it to us, but there was redactions, and then we also undertook to destroy it and so on.
Okay.
But that was kind of a very professional, a very reassuring way of looking at it. And also I was very impressed that they came to see us. They have boots on the ground. They could see what it was. There was nothing hidden. No problem. They saw an issue. It wouldn't come as a surprise that they could add on to the cost of the contract. So that we shouldn't have to include any contingency budgeting for it.
Okay.
Sorry, and just another note on this. If you look at the innovation side of it, Company 2 goes for a more traditional approach, which to me, if it wasn't facing LGR, probably would be okay. But the strong strategic thinking from Company 1 is something we need to be looking for mostly because of the amount of changes that's going to be happening for Kent, which is way above even my brain level. Good idea.
Companies, on that issue, company 3, which scored the highest, was the most blue sky thinking. It was, we don't, not just what you want, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to be really innovative. We thought, well, hang on, this is just a business case. All it is to produce a document that we either sit on a shelf for future use, and we can take it off and rely upon and give it to somebody that's fit for purpose. But unfortunately, company 3, their business case, and they did have, with each of these companies produced a CV of their key personnel. And the business case for company 3, which I know we sort of discounted, was the most dreadful piece of grammar and report writing I think you can imagine. It was no paragraphs, no lines, very long sentences, all completely gobbledygook, all tightly packed. What you normally do on 4 pages, they did on 3 page. Which is not a selling point.
No, but that's the initiative proposal. They're using a dyslexic brain to design that, but what?
It's just a cut, it's a cut and paste job.
Think for your audience.
Right, okay, right.
So the
I think-
proposal,
yeah.
sorry, Mr. Manager, the proposal from the tender panel is to appoint company 1 for full works.
Okay.
I'll come to that.
You have a proposal? Councillor Cosgrove?
You can second it.
I
I don't mind.
Can I just thank the committee members for all the information they've given us, the quality of the report. It helps us make a decision, and we can understand why they've gone, company 1. It does look like, because of all process here, we should go with company 1.
Okay, thank you. So we've got a proposer, we've got a seconder, can you move?
Who was it? Out of the 2?
Company 1.
Sorry.
No, I know when she put the hard. Yeah.
So unanimous.
Yes, as you know.
That's fine.
And I would like to echo Councillor Wedgbury, because this is probably one of the most important things we're going to be doing now, is shape our business plan, shape our investments, shape everything for the future. So, thank you very much, everybody.
Actually,
Yeah.
I just add to that, Councillor Wedgbury's thanks to councillors, but I'd like to thank Pete because he did put in the legwork on this and get this all put into a format that we.
Can I say, I did,
Did you?
it's on my note, it's on my note,
I did have a nice recommendation.
One
One is the appointment of company 1, which we've just done. The second is to delegate the authority to the parish manager in consultation with nominated councillors to finalise the contractual arrangements to start working with company.
Agreed.
Yes.
Are you happy with the original 2 councillors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you in the same group?
Yeah.
Okay, right, proposal.
Yes.
Can you just remind me where these places were for? Company 3 was from Wales.
Something like that.
2 Canterbury.
2 Canterbury and.
next to us.
And the other one was Surrey.
Yeah. In one, sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
What, Surrey?
Okay, right, so we have a proposal for the second recommendation, we have a seconder, and the membership is councillor McGeever and councillor Cosgrove.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Not that, 3 votes. Unanimous, okay, thank you very much, everybody. Right, agenda on 7. Is this all you're going to do a presentation?
Yes, so won't keep you long, it's just a few slides just to show I'll give a bit of an update on our country fair. As you can see, we've had a great time. It's like so a little bit of an overview of the day. We've sent it around, so hopefully you've had a great look anyway. We always have our statistics, so as soon as the event's finished, we're straight in the office, straight in the ball, looking at how we can make things better. But overall, it was a really successful day. Lots and lots of positive feedback. Really good atmosphere, a really calm atmosphere. Very calm. Maybe it's because people are a bit warm, but no, it was really good. Lots of positive feedback from us, still members from other groups. There's a few pictures from the day
That's the one thing we lack in, we always, it's too busy to go around and get photos, so. But I am going to contact our stall holders to come up any pictures that they know, because they're always nice to use. Positives, I've made note of some here as well. Obviously, I've said we've had really positive feedback from people attending, people of all ages. We've had people in the community cafe, and people with range children. So it's an event that is growing, that isn't purely based on families. It is for all ages, all ages attending. So that's really lovely as well. We're building trust in the community. They want to come back year after year, so hopefully we're doing something right. The support that we're able to give our local charities and the local groups as well that perform, because they don't all get chances like that. So that's nice. Yeah, so that's just some of the positives. The rides and the new place tours, they're always really good. Council Kingsnorth has also done a report on the dog show. I want to say a huge thank you to Andy for doing that. That's absolutely amazing. This year, Singapore Vets also donated to Hamper and a gift card for the best in show. So it's nice to have them join us as well this year.
And we got them to actually donate it. So
yes, yeah. It's really lovely, really lovely. And they obviously provided a few bits for the dogs to go like the whole beds and bits. Positives continue. So Peter Webb always done an amazing job on the PA system for us. Again, I think I've gone through pretty much all of that. There's minimal litter, having the extra gyms around is huge. Saves us a lot of work going at the end. Picnic and games areas worked well. Token kiosks was run brilliantly. Thank you as well to Andy and thank you to our councillors as well who joined in. So as I say, we always go back and look at ways that we can improve it year on year. So the bank holiday weekend came up. We discussed that there's so much that goes on around now, so we're potentially moving into the weekend for the bank holiday weekend. And because the kids break up, a lot of people go away as well. So yeah, to look at that, obviously event sponsor, we had the people group this year, so we'll be looking at more sponsorship for next year. Continuing to work with our volunteers and community groups, ways to bring down the cost of the fair, things that we could purchase just to make things easier for people to locate certain areas, car show, possibly to replace the dog show, because sadly, Aileen's coming up and just, and that's such a huge responsibility. So again, thank you Aileen for all the issues done that for us. Moving the application form for stallholders online, and just the general advertising around. I think to do.
Yeah, so outlined here is the budget that the budget breakdown for 2026. So fund income was slightly down on last year, but also the expenditure was down on last year as well. So we didn't spend as much, but we didn't get in as much on the rides. Stallholders was a massive success. I think we budgeted for about 700 £600. We took over nearly £1,435 just from the stallholders. We also had a discounted price for charity stallholders and a slightly enhanced one for businesses. Food vendors, we again, similar to the stallholders, we had a budget of, or an income target of 1,200. We took £1,625.50. £600 of that was just on the ice cream vans, which is a great contribution to obviously the hot weather had its benefits. Obviously the dog show, we raised £159 to the guy that dogs still blind, which is great. With regards to the expenditure, again, we cut our costs obviously on the fun fair, but also on other items throughout the year, which is good. And obviously the total event cost was £6,529, £21.29p. We estimate the number of attendees about 2,500, which has obviously brought the cost down by quite a bit per person. So I'll move on to the next slide. Last year we spent, it costed the parish 11,871. This year it cost us 6,521. So the cost has gone down by 45%, which is a great saving. It's obviously more cost effective for the parish, but also the cost per attendee has obviously gone down by a considerable amount. Linked to our business plan, obviously there were two objectives in the plan: was to reduce the cost of parish council events, and that's not just a country fair, that's all events that we're running, and that's across the lifespan of business plan. And obviously we are mindful of that, and obviously we have hit that target. We've involved more local groups. So we've got Park Drama involved with the PA system, Andy from Park Farm Rangers comes and helps out with the tokens. We've got Pilgrim's Hospice, who came along and had a stall, but also was on the events working group for a couple of meetings just to provide their input as a local organisation that works with all the different lots of different events, not just ours. So our proposed budget for next year is in line with our 5-year budget, which we've obviously set out. We're looking at an income of about 13,000 for next year, and an expenditure of 15,966, which, if you look at the bottom, will bring down the cost of the event to 2,966, which obviously again reduces the cost to the parish again, which is what we want. So the idea next year is to go with the same similar on-fair rides. We'll probably switch out the water for another Crystal ride, which is slightly cheaper, and also mix it up a little bit. We're looking at, we've had some conversations with an astronaut company to provide the inflatables, and they're considerably cheaper than the company that we used this year and for the past 2 years. And also looking at getting a local company to provide some extra rides. They provided the train this year, but we'll probably look at having smaller rides plus the teacups which they provided. So the next steps, what we're looking to do is to get agreement of the date and outline budget. So we're looking at the date for the 22nd of May, which actually means it's very similar to this year's date, because next year the bank holiday weekends falls like the bank holiday Monday is the 31st. So it works out, we're almost having the same date, but a week earlier. If that makes sense. So, and then obviously, we want to thank everyone for their support on the day. I think pretty much every council is there in some shape or form, either helping out with the event or on a stall. It's good to see everyone there, and as I say, the feedback we've had has been really positive from lots of different people from
that's right. They're all ready, emailing me back next year, so well done.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we haven't had much from multicultural. I know we tried to reach out a few times to multicultural people groups, and we've got some fantastic dancers, different types of people that showcase their, where they've come from, different things. It's hard to get people involved, but we want them to. Is there a possibility that we specify a post or a continual post asking, requesting for this for next year? Because we are multicultural in Park Farm and Kingsnorth, and we should be celebrating this. So we need them on board. The other thing is there was one entertainment that was slightly uncomfortable, which I will speak to you and the events team later on. We have our next events group meeting. I won't go into details, but I just think that we need to be quite mindful of the audience we have in the centre. particularly with young children as well. So I will bring this up within the events working group. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hicks.
I noticed we are anticipating we're getting some money from grants next year. With the change in the local government, there might be a big question mark over what we actually can apply for. Okay. Also, what happened to my steam engine? I didn't see it.
Well, it's supposed to be here, it didn't right.
It must have been too hot for them, I think.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was a nuisance. And I would support what Councillor Giles is saying. The Nepalese people have got a very good dance group, and I wondered maybe we could approach them.
Yeah, we have tried. It's very tricky, but we will, I think if we start putting the feelers out with specifically designed requests, I think that might get eye-catching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do use our football, the informal football matches on a Sunday, don't they? So maybe that's the route to go through. Okay, Councillor Cosgrove.
Well done, guys. It's good agenda. Thinking through. Do you go on fact finding missions to other fairs and faiths and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Because there's quite a few big ones around. If you come away with just one or two, I know some of them are quite expensive. But we did discuss covering the costs, so you can actually go and get some decent. And there are quite a few organisations that book up events quite a long way in advance. I know you had problems with Phillips Weeks this year, but that's a personal issue. But they would have come, they would have done it, had it been on their calendar, you get off the calendar.
Yes,
And
but we know to recontact them.
and that with regard to cars, there's we need to get away from the personal favours, because there's quite a few car clubs. There's 3 moist mining clubs around, there's an MG club, owners club around. The pub will come en masse.
Yeah.
One of the guys is actually part of the club, he was going to bring some other people, but because of the weather, they couldn't come.
So what we found is we had more classic cars that were due to come. But the owners of classic cars were a lot older. And the heat and being there for 5 hours just wasn't, so they quite rightly dropped out. So we had that part, but yeah, we did advertising, we had advertised for people.
But some of the approaches to some of these clubs, getting the
Yeah, there was a bit of trial and error.
Yeah.
Really, to brand new sort of having the cars there, and actually people really enjoyed having a look around them, so.
Okay, thank you.
And my thanks. Sadly, I was on the 13 to 10, but it was.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. Just picking up what you said, Councillor Cosgrove, I'm going to a load of fairs and fetes this summer. So if you've got any flyers that I can give out with your details, I can just go around the stalls and just hand them out. Like, for example, the Kennington, going to the Kennington one, the big one, the New Romney one, I don't know, I'll go in hundreds of them. So, New Romney's huge, so we could go there. And have you ever thought about getting the cadets?
Yes.
We definitely have those.
We actually had some openers with they did the band.
Yes.
The air cadets were cancelled for the Hamilton's event, which was on the same sort of day, because it was too hot for the piss. They couldn't cope with the heat. So they cancelled it and threw the whole of the car parking for the Hamilton weekend into quite a lot of disarray.
Okay. Right, I'm going to bring this to a close now, and I'm going to go straight to the recommendations, which is to note the presentations provided within the parish council meeting, authorise the events working group and parish council to start planning on the 2027 country fair on the date specified in the presentation, which is the 22nd of May. And to authorise the outline budget provided in the presentation and agree to the parish council staff to book rides and get events insurance in place for 2027. Are members happy to take those on block, or do you want me to take them individually? Right, I propose them. Do I have a second? It's finished. Oh, yeah. Just one name on the papers. Right. There we go. Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Aileen, do you want to mention your report, Aileen?
Pardon?
Did you want to mention your report? I've printed copies for everyone, but they've been sent as well.
Oh, it's your little update on the. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
I just wanted to say that, I just want that on the judge phoned up, said he wasn't going to do it. And it was a nightmare, it was like a physical hit. And I was in a dream the rest of the day, but we were able to overcome it. And Ruth very kindly helped out as well, so
Yeah.
it wasn't so bad. But it does make you feel that these outside events are no good. I was doing a dog show down in Woodchurch on Saturday and it poured with rain. In fact, the tea tent had its roof ripped off because it was so bad. So instead of having the dog show outside, we went into the village hall. So I think in future, I'm not going to do it again, but you know, we need to consider different weather, yes.
Different weather contingency.
Yes.
Either if it's too hot or too
Yes,
cold.
contingencies.
We normally have a bad weather contingency plan, don't we? It's with bar events.
Okay.
I'm sure it's for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's organisation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving now on to item 8, parish newsletter report. You taking that off?
If you know, you can.
So obviously, time is coming round quickly this year and we're ready to be doing our next set of newsletters. Myself and Maria have already started putting together the newsletter. Obviously, you do need agreement from the parish council that you're happy for us to go ahead with distributing the newsletter. Had a chat with the chair and Councillor Cosgrove yesterday regarding obviously ensuring that our commissioning of the feasibility business plan, business case project is obviously given a page within the newsletter, and so obviously we can promote a mailing list so that we can get online consultations from our residents. So yeah, it's just to ask if council are happy.
Okay, councillor Cosgrove.
Just to reinforce the point, within the programme of the business case studies, the proposals from the consultants were to have public consultations about weeks 5 and 6, which is mid of August. So we've really got to get something in to prepare people to awareness out in July. So it's very timely that we can prepare people and introduce the winning consultant and prepare them for consultation if we're going to make this thing to success. We don't want the first thing they hear of is the week before.
Yeah.
Councillor Ridgely.
There's only one small thing, we're getting a very good reputation within the community, of representing the community and doing some things for our residents. Can we make sure our newsletter goes nowhere near the borough council one? Because some people might get them muddled up, and there's a lot of complaining about how bad the borough council is at the moment. We don't want to get tainted by their
Do they go out quarterly?
I think they go out quarterly.
Well, the print deadline is the 22nd of June, so we need to get our copy in, so it's quite quick. I'll do the chairman's welcome thing.
The actual one's just gone out, so the next one won't be until another couple of months' time, so that won't coincide with ours.
Okay.
Like it's important, I think it's important we
Yeah.
don't have it.
And at the last meeting, when I did my report on how we engage, one of the recommendations was that we want to set up maybe a focus group of residents, and this is a good opportunity to get people to submit emails and things like that. So we've got a focus group of people that we can use as a sounding board for ideas as we go out wider consultation.
Yes.
Okay, so are we now happy, or did you?
I was just going to say, I think it's really important that we do these newsletters because people do actually read them, and as Jim's saying, People need to have these, need to have this information.
I went down to the couch, I said, I had a pocket of I used to have to sit in the. It's quite nice.
Right, can we move that then? Post the newsletter report.
Yes.
Councillor Provost, Cosgrove is seconded. We vote.
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We then move to item 9, highways improvement plan. We want to tell about the agency highway, which is not the rather lengthy document.
That's why I was playing it around, sorry.
The items in red are the latest information, is it?
This is one.
It's a bit like going back to square one, because the lady, it's a new lady we got, who is our coordination person. And she said, well, why have we got all these items on it? What is it not the old style of just asking for the footpath or asking for crossing? So I said, no, KCC changed it, it'll morph into our complete wish list for everything. So that they can then spread it, as about said, between the different departments that they're thinking of. So that's why there's a lot of items on there that the original concept of higher goods and trips didn't change the form. I'm not throwing into potholes on it because it's not that, it's pretty much capital works.
So you said something about red.
Yeah,
There's
the
different
red
colours.
text on there, it means something.
Okay, we want to know what it is then.
It's like the red text, it's their comments.
Yes,
So,
their
comments.
So, final,
On page one. So basically what we do, we put down their issues in the white bottom, because that's the steady. And then we prioritise them, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what we've done over the years is to keep every single item on there. It's all coloured out, but down below, all the items we have discussed, so you can see the history of quite some time.
Yeah.
What our big one was obviously the actual road, that's 700 metres and 7 accesses. And what we were trying to get to there was for them, for KCC, although they say they do look at all these things, is to say look at it as a whole. So you don't have 7 individual accesses with 7 individual design types. So you might have a cycle lane and a footpath on one side, and then you do nothing, and then a combined cycle lane, footpath, and then nothing again for 50 yards. The whole thing's going to be joined up, or either one contractor does the lot, or there's an overall KCC vision of what the road's going to look like, and they all alter it. The mode is down to individual developers to interpret the design guide themselves. There could be a mismatch, or they want to do their side and not the design of the road. Still really.
Yeah. And I think they have agreed to do the WL line on both sides of Churchill.
Yeah.
Up and past Pound Court.
Yeah.
Up to Pound Court. Whereas we originally asked for WL lines on one side, not all the way up to Pound Court, but they've said both sides up to Pound Court.
That's what I asked for, they said no.
I know.
Yeah.
They said yes, no. So keep on pushing, I think is the thing. Right, oh, sorry. That's the first time I've ever caught anything.
She had to.
Right. Can we just, is that just a note?
That's about
One thing I was going to ask is, if you're happy, I was going to upload it to our website. So
Yeah.
yes.
Residents can see it. Let's see what we've done.
Can we check the comments first?
Do we need to amend anything considering the new changes? Like, because I know I put a couple of bits on it, part farm south. Is any of that falling away from what the parts is?
If it's gone in the past, and you consider it to be even more relevant because the situation has changed,
Right.
there's nothing to stop us bringing it up for next time. And then explaining why we want to revisit it.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything on it that was like
See,
I don't do that anymore.
okay. All right?
Yeah.
Well, before we put it up, everybody have a quick look, check, just to check there's nothing in there that's.
Everything that we're going through now is live, so that's everything that's on the live, and then when you get down to the bottom, which is here, this is everything we've discussed in the past. And that's,
So I put it on the other one, didn't I? I put it on our one.
yeah, but road.
That's a KCC, yeah, a couple of Park Farm South bit, isn't it? No, I think there's one on Reed Crescent as well.
Well, it's a joint document.
Yeah.
We have the left-hand side, KCD has the right side.
Yeah.
So we can change, it's unfair to change our side when we commented.
Okay, everybody? Right, and the proposal by Pete was that it goes on the website.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, good idea. Right, we then move on to financial matters. Let's just take receive May financial report.
Yeah.
So no, anybody got any comments on that? We can accept it, and that's just a note to us.
Yeah.
We then move to 10B, which is invoices awaiting approval. Thank you. Is there anything you need to tell us about on these things?
Item 15. Is the last one.
Yeah. We've got, about one, obviously, subject to tonight's agreement, Park Farm Rangers grant, and also interactive, which is the delivery for, and printing of the newsletter, obviously, subject to the agreement, which they have been. The rest of it is all related to, mainly to, country fair or standard. The only other one that we obviously need to be aware of, which we'll bring up later in the closed session, is regarding the legal services for Sugar Farm.
Item 11.
Item 11.
Okay. Right, so,
Sorry, Chair. I have no problem with any of these, but item 12, can I be abstained from voting on, please? Because I pay them regularly.
fees.
Yes, fees.
Okay. Don't think it's a material.
No, but it was a monetary one. I think I feel a bit more comfortable if I
Declare away.
declare that and then
Yeah,
abstain on just that item.
I think you're right, don't you?
Alright, okay. Right, propose to pay these invoices, councillor Wedgbury, seconder, councillor Cosgrove, all voting bar the.
I'm abstaining on item 12, yes, but anything else I'm agreeing to.
Then we moved to, oh, this is when I have to play this silly thing, isn't it? Here we go, our bingo now. This is our annual return. And we have to go through this line by line. Okay, so apologise to me, I'm going to speak too much. First of all, we have to confirm one way or the other with the various statements. First one is, we have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during a year and for the preparation of the accounting statements. Agreed? Yes. We maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption, and reviewed its effectiveness. Agreed. Agreed. 3. We have assured ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations, and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances. Agreed. We provide proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations. Agreed. We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and/or external insurance cover where required. Agreed. We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports from internal and external audit. Agreed. We considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on this authority and, where appropriate, have included them in the accounting statements. Agreed. For local councils only, trust funds, including charitable. In our capacity as the sole managing trustee, we discharged our accountability responsibility with the funds stroke assets, including financial reporting and, if required, independent examination or audit. It's not applicable.
Yeah.
Okay. 10, we have put in place arrangements for the effective IT and data management in accordance with proper practices during the year under review. Okay, I'll sign that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you said some as well.
I'll tick them.
Excellent.
Okay,
Can you exclude me from this, please, Chair, because I haven't been here long enough to have seen all this in action, because it's up to this, the accounting statements, 31st of March 26.
Yep.
I haven't been here.
and when we do the final
Yeah.
vote, I would abstain then, yeah. Should we then move on to section 2?
Yes.
And do I have to go through everything again the same? Or do we just? It's just,
The first one you figured out.
yeah, okay, so section 2, the accounting statement, this is to note,
Yes.
to note the statement.
Noted.
Noted, okay. I'll sign that in a minute.
Yes.
Okay. Review internal auditors' comments and agree action. Do you want to take us through this?
Yeah, so myself and Ruth sat down with our internals on the 18th of May. And we went through, so she asked for a checklist of everything that we had to send her our documents. She said that it was one of the best audits she'd done this year, which was nice. Obviously, everything, main things that she recommended is some procedures with regards to use of debit cards, obviously reviewing the bank mandate, just ensuring that we review our insurance each year, which we do because I do get products and stuff in, but obviously just knowing it. Adopting internal financial controls policy, which we can put together. Councillor Croswell and the chair asked about appointing the parish council to be responsible for internal financial control. I've checked that with her and it's miswording. It's basically there needs, I've gone back to her because she said there needs to be a person that's going to do like regular checks of the bank accounts. So I've gone back to her and said, we do that, but we have a rotation so that someone does it every month. It's a different council.
Transparency. Yeah.
So, she hasn't gone back to me on that one yet, so.
It's so one person doesn't get involved.
Yeah, 100%. So it gives it a transparency, so everyone's looking at it.
Yeah.
To review effective internal audit arrangements, reserves policy adopted, we did have, we did, and then an investment strategy, which we did have, but we need to relook at just
We incorporated it into the financial regulations, but then the financial regulations got updated, so you should check, it got moved into it.
yeah. Asset register published on the website, which is something I can do, it's not a problem. Some councils do, some councils don't. And we can obviously do a formal data audit, which we've started. And that's it. So, yeah.
So that's just a note?
Yeah.
Right, we know that the internal audit report. Then we move to changes to the Metro mandate because Terry is no longer councillor Jones is no longer a member. So can we approve the removal of councillor Jones?
Yes.
Who is the moment?
So at the moment, we have councillor Redbury, councillor Breeze, councillor Clark, councillor Croswell, and councillor Ramsey.
Yeah. That's quite a lot.
That's quite enough. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
There we go. Leave it at that then.
Can we,
So,
what we know,
You want to agree with this, yeah?
we just delete one and
Yes.
no,
Yes, okay. Then we'll move on to planning matters. Which is to note the decisions by ABC. They seem to keep the same ones on there for a long time, don't
Decisions.
they? So that's just a note. And then we move on to planning applications. And again, thin this time, so they're still working on the current ones, aren't they? Really? So, the first one, which is, the continuing one of the wall. And this now is the bit about the hedging. Which I believe is to go in front of the wall, isn't it? That's what I believe.
Yes, I think it looks like they've started working on it at the moment.
Okay, so, yeah, so I think when I looked at it, it looked like they're cracking on with the wall, and this is the second part, which is the planting to go in front of the wall.
Yeah.
I personally don't, I mean.
No comment.
No comment.
Yeah.
It's an ATH, you know, I'm sure you can say about that. No comment, people, or what?
No comment.
No comment?
No
People
comment,
happy
yeah.
with no comment? Yeah. The next one is Taylor Farm. This is planning application, because the farmhouse is a listed building, but the building that they're doing they're turning a garage into a self-contained annex. I've looked at it, I don't think it affects anybody, so you're quite sensitive. I would say support. Say support.
Yes.
Something like that, yeah. And then the other one is remove major deadwood, basically sorting out trees. They seem to be doing it properly. In the past, we've always said support the officer's recommendations, because we're not experts in this regard. So if the tree officer says it's appropriate, then
I had a look at
They are
it,
particularly high.
and they are starting to overreach one hand, so.
yeah.
And just as a comment, there was a tree adjacent to that, not probably 2 years ago, that blew down, and we had to have it removed off the public footpath.
Okay.
So it's will be imperative that that area is
Being
made.
responsible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've just bought support tree officer's
Mhm.
recommendation. And then the next one is the single story extension at 13 Collinbourne in Kingsnorth. I had a look at it. There were no comments, didn't seem to be close to anybody, it didn't seem to cause anything particularly big. So it's either support or no comment.
No comment.
No comment.
Yeah.
Is it no comment or support? Which one are we going?
No, I'll go, no comment.
No comment? Right.
We physically really want it.
Yeah, okay, so that's the only current application, but all the others are still rumbling along. We then move to, any appeals and enforcement matters, none, and then, we wanted to raise the correspondence that we received from Simon and Cole. Do you want a copy of which is in your.
Yeah, I have read it.
Yeah, it's taken 2 attempts to get an answer about South Ashford gardening community, and then he has confirmed that it still exists. I suppose all we can do is just keep on plugging at it.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
After a meeting.
Well, we have, yes.
Keep badgering, that's
We
it.
have, keep badgering. The correspondence, the joint one, with the other parishes about South Ashford garden community was sent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're still keeping the pressure on. Councillor Costello.
Yeah, did
Ask for a meeting.
it was raised, about joint council forum or joint parish council forum. I think we discussed this outside earlier. You want to say that for about?
Yes, I think,
the right people.
yeah, I mean, Councillor Ransley has suggested that we should get relevant parishes together to start talking strategically and how we challenge common issues for us. Obviously, the initial one would be the logic of the South Ashford Garden Communities Fund, so we've been pursuing that with our joint letters from the various chairs, but I think Councillor Ransley's argument was that there were other parishes that we might have a more strategic alliance with. I was reminded that not in this current local plan, but the one before, when I chaired CALC, we invited every 3 months the planning officers, it was Simon Cole at the time, to attend the CALC meetings. And we invited the non-CALC parishes to also attend those specific meetings. So we had a far more coordinated approach to the local plan. And through those auspices, I was able to have separate groups but they came under the umbrella of CALP. And I think it had greater clout really with Ashby Borough Council, in that they felt that they could talk to several parishes all at the same time as a better use of resources. It doesn't seem to have the same role now, CALC, in doing that, which is a shame. So we've got to be a bit careful how, if we wanted to organise something like that ourselves, whether we wanted to kind of badge it as ourselves or badge it under CALC. It's a bit of a
Grey area.
a bit of a grey area, really. But I think we've got to decide who we think our strategic partners would be.
I think we should.
Alex first.
I think we should start with keep the South Ashford Garden community, because they're already linked, and I think that we are quite an urban sort of place, and to involve people down in Ham Street would not be appropriate, I don't think, at the moment. But also, we've got to bear in mind what the local plan is going to say, and they have actually got a meeting tomorrow afternoon.
Right. Anybody else?
I feel like Kingsnorth affiliates quite well with places like Challetshurst and Woodchurch and that sort of stuff. It seems like quite a similar kind of villagey type scenario. So I think if I'm thinking about strengths, I think they would be good as well. It's good connections.
It's just that if we went through CALC, they could use their database to invite those parishes. On the other hand, we do have the chairs of all the relevant parish councils if we wanted to. I think it's just about knowing who it is you want to play with, really. You've got to make some decisions. I mean, it can't be everyone, otherwise there's nothing.
No, Council Cosgrove attends, and so does Council Random attends the CALC, and you have, well, we used to before, didn't they, for a while. I mean, yourself as well, but I know you do, so I would know that you probably have some good connections between those councils anyway.
Individual people want it, but we just pick up that there's no appetite from council to champion anything at the moment. I was gonna bring this up under my other report. There's no sort of appetite for championing something.
It's a bit passive.
Whether we want to ask the question and get motivated, there's one or two parish councils there that are quite agitated. But there's a lot there that are agitated on totally different matters, which we don't.
Would it be worthwhile going to CALC and saying, this is what we would like support with? If not, we might approach now. See if that stirs them up and say, oh no, don't go to the national, we'll do something here. Again, I don't know, I might.
I think what I was going to suggest is that maybe we draft a letter for CALC to have on their next meeting to talk about this. But because for me, yes, we could do it ourselves, and I don't have a problem doing it. But I just remember in the past, it had more clout by it being coordinated by CALC. And for those parishes who were not members of CALC, we invited them in, so you couldn't say that it was people being excluded.
Yeah, and specifically state what it is that we would like from them, from doing exactly to learn.
Yeah, keep it simple, as they say. Okay, well, I'll draft something.
I get a distinct feeling everything's on hold until we know what is going to happen with the unitaries.
Yeah, but I suppose, but when we do know, Councillor Hicks, it will all be.
Same with my saying that, so well, couldn't you?
Just need to be ready, don't we?
It's always something.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. There were no other external correspondence that we needed to note.
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So we were gonna, did we miss any other planning matters? Obviously.
I don't think we discussed that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm past it. Gone for it.
Went through it, didn't we? Yeah, we
I was gonna, did you not want to update on your application bit or not?
You mean the
Kingsnorth Green?
Kingsnorth Green? Yeah. I was hoping that would come up.
Yes, so yeah, we didn't do it in D.
Oh, I didn't think there was any consent. Oh,
Okay.
oh, okay. Okay, all right.
So Kingsnorth really want to do some variations in sort of the conditions, and they want to sort of vary the affordable housing, and they've presented some figures which they're meant to do on the basis of how they would vary it. They haven't actually come up with a figure, but rather than going into details, if we had a set figure in mind that we said in principle we would like to have so much affordable housing in our parish, surely that would, prompt them to try and match it. That's one way of going about it. People feel about that.
Doesn't Ashford have its own quota in terms of the number of affordable houses? Yeah, and so for me, what happens is that the developers try to wiggle out of providing the affordable housing.
Hardly ever see 30%.
Yeah.
You do need to check the appeal decision because there was discussion at appeal about reducing their number of affordable houses to 10%. And I do believe that was agreed by the inspector.
Yeah.
So it's good that we have a view, but ultimately Ashford Borough Council has its policy. But it's very rarely that you get the number that's in the policy because they individually try and negotiate the numbers down.
Yeah, I went through, but I haven't done it properly yet, but just going through comparison with what the planning inspector said, which is the most important document, as opposed to what the changes that are proposed. And it's things like the wastewater treatment works. I don't know if we're going to be interested in that, whether or not we're pleased with it or not, whether or not it's going to offsite nutrient credits. I mean, there is a change there. So do we want to say something like, when's that going to be paid? When, is there something there? Because it's all changing from what the planning inspector said. They want to change like the parameter plans, the phasing strategy, the public transport, the infrastructure, the delivery of the highway infrastructure. These are like tweaks they're changing, and things like the bus stop. So it's what the planning inspector said. Now, I suspect that the planning officer will be going through this with a fine-tooth comb. So I wondered whether or not it's something that we want to just highlight and say these are material changes, because these are the material changes to the planning inspector, or what we think about it, or not. I mean, we can put something together, but these are changes, and it's the wastewater plant. Do we want one? We've said no. We've said no. So it's nutrient credits. Are we happy with nutrient credits?
I've had a look into these nutrient credits. They gain nutrient credits by digging wider ditches with more vegetation in an area miles and miles away from ourselves. It's probably all approved by Natural England, but these schemes haven't been proven yet, I don't think. There's been schemes elsewhere in the country, but I would still ask, are these, is this new scheme going to work? Basically,
I'm getting a little bit confused in that this is exactly the conversation we've had in the past, and we have our standard reply, and we have responded to these changes by asking those specific questions. So they're all relevant questions, but it's no different from what we've discussed at the previous time. So what we need to do is keep the pressure on, which is we want to have a conversation with people about these schemes in a workshop format or something else, rather than dealing with it by going through the planning portal and having those just line by line conversations. We want to sit down and talk to people collectively about the implications of all of these little bits and.
I even got an email back from the company that provides this nutrient scheme. I didn't know where to start on the email, but
It's the same as buying those credits for energy efficiency, isn't it? You can buy credits from a company that's producing energy in Scotland, and it somehow makes it look like you've got an energy efficient supply when you haven't. Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was, if in fact we're talking about the inspector's recommendation, that's a done deal.
Yeah, it is.
So we could take this talking about these things now, I would suggest, because we've done it already before.
We had the arguments back there as well.
Yes, all we need to do now is make sure that section 106 agreements are adhered to. But when you talk about your credits, they've got over at Blindly, they've started doing some work for credits with ditches, and further over the Hosfields, over the park, they're having for one of the Shaftesbury's developments, they're using nutrient things, credits over there. And you've got them all over the place, and they've all got to be done for about 30 years. So I think when you think about the wastewater treatment plant is going to be behind the motorbike place, and that they have now decided it's going to be into mains, and there was a similar one in Shaftesbury's where it's going to be neutral, and they're also going to be because they can now actually use these credits. So I think that's a good idea, particularly.
Thank you.
So can I just say one thing? And I absolutely agree in terms of the water and the waste. And I know you talked an awful lot about it. But one thing that does really concern me is that in 20 years' time, we're going to have a surge of people who are going to be elderly. And in Kingsnorth, we don't have enough bungalows or anything, or actual assisted housing that are being built here. My concern is that we're having all these big townhouses and 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom properties being built, but the residents that live in this area are not able to actually grow and stay and remain in this area because they're not building enough for that, for instance. So I don't know whether this is something that, as a parish council, we can also put into comments, particularly in future ones where we're going, actually, we are looking at, because I can give you the details from the Ashford Health Alliance, it is going to surge. In 20 years' time, we're going to have a lot more in that age bracket who are going to be needing to downsize and are going to have to move out of the area.
Yeah, I think in the previous local plan, we said we wanted retirement homes, retirement village. We wanted smaller units because actually the demand on most waiting lists is for 1-bedroom properties, not for family housing. And if you actually provided lots of 1-bedroom properties, people who are under-occupying family houses would move out of the under-occupied family houses and move into the rather nice 1-bedroom ones. So yeah, absolutely.
But it's something that is quite concerning, right?
There are bungalows being built in Chillington, but they're really expensive.
Yeah, they take a lot of land. Okay, but yeah, it's noted because we are not all one demographic group.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we now move on?
one more thing on the roads. I've looked into road widths, and the road widths they're proposing on Kingsnorth Green is 6.5 wide. But the typical parameter in the Kent design code is 6.75. If they're local distributor roads, and I would argue that is a local distributor road because we've got trading estate on Pan Lane. We've got 1,000 houses going to be built on Manor called Lodge. And then even the 6.75 is really small for to getting 3 vehicles through, and we've already got problems with, on Coulter Road with, you can't get 3 vehicles if there's one coming and you're on a corner and one's coming towards you. So really they should be looking at getting 3 cars wide, which is something like 8 metres.
On Ashford Road, is that the variation?
You need to be careful.
Even the spine sort of road from Pound Lane to Ashford Road, I believe we should be asking for the widest, possible roads that they could be making.
You can make any one which road you want. What you want to do is the Kent design codes are just a local design code, effectively amending or providing suggestions for local developers. If you're really going to do a local road design, you want to look at the government road notes, road note 29, road note 36, which is what your design codes you want to design to. It's down to types of traffic, width of traffic, and number of axles going down those roads. So you can't just go out quoting with random widths, because they're all different for different categories.
What we can probably is the congestion we're already finding on our roads, because cars park on these roads and they're more likely to.
That's fine. You don't start quoting numbers of people, because you'll be shot down very quickly.
Yeah, I think we have to be very mindful of what our role is, what our skills expertise is, because we are only here as consultees. We don't make decisions on planning. And Ashford Borough Council, in many ways, hands are tied by all the rules and regulations regarding the approval of planning applications. I think all we can do is raise our concerns, but we should not get into the detail. Because if you do get into the detail, somebody will just challenge you, and what will happen is we'll lose the argument, because they'll say it should be this size and that size. But what the argument is, it's got to be fit for purpose.
Fit for purpose is three vehicles wide.
Yes, do you see what I mean? But you've got to be careful about, as Councillor Cosgrove says, if you get into the specifics, then you'll get some consultant coming back to you and saying, the specifics is this because of some section thing in a quote. We just need to be focusing on it being fit for purpose. Put it in layman's language, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, three cars wide.
Yeah.
Really.
No, it wouldn't work.
No, it wouldn't work. The road that you're talking about.
You just say it's congested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just say it's congested.
Yeah.
And give reasons why it's congested, not
and
quoting on the law.
our concerns, and they're genuine concerns, but it's not for us, if you like, to get into that.
So I always say we'll pick up.
Yeah.
The problem with the roads.
Yeah.
They're one of the main consultants on planning.
There's strong that matters regarding parking spaces.
Yeah. Well, we can at least say that, we believe that they're doing the minimum sort of widths.
They're always doing it. Because they're there to make money, aren't they?
Yeah.
Not wide enough.
Yeah, so absolutely, all the points that you've raised are important ones, but we shouldn't get into the detail of how to solve the problem, because that's not our remit. And the danger is if we imply that we know that detail, if, for example, if we've gone to the inspector's thing and we did something technical and we got it wrong, we could be charged, couldn't we?
Yes. Yeah.
It could be fined. Okay, right, so I think all those things are really important, and I think what we need to do is just keep on banging on that we would like to have a meeting to discuss all these small little amendments, to see them all collectively in one place rather than comment on them.
Is it training on nutrient neutrality? That's the thing that you'd like to know
Well,
more.
we've asked for that,
Right.
didn't we? And we didn't get very far.
Is there another provider, a private one that we could seek, like we did last time?
I think Faye responded to our thing about training, didn't she? She gave us a quote about how the nutrient thing. Yeah, we can say whether you're any the wiser from it.
I think it might be worth going.
Yeah.
And just even if we seek our own private person to walk through it, worth it.
Okay. Right, we now move on. To item 30.
Want us to provide anything for the parish council to look at? I mean, it's just saying that there are various triggers that are getting changed and extended, so that infrastructure will not be delivered in the same timely manner that the planning inspector
Well,
thought.
if members feel that there's more than we can discuss in a normal meeting,
Yeah.
and obviously we're going over time for that very reason, we usually arrange for a special meeting to discuss a specific application to ordinarily.
Yeah,
And at that point, you've got the opportunity to go into detail, but I think.
I would suggest that the group that was set up puts together a comment,
Yeah,
shares with the parish council, whether we can agree at the next meeting.
yeah.
and we haven't heard from councillor Ramsey yet, have we?
No, so that was the plan, wasn't it, last time, was that a group of you would come back to us with a, if you like, a structured response or a report. So if we can keep that as a live action, and maybe just the two of you at the moment, get on with what you've both done, and then circulate that to councillor Ransley. Maybe it'd be easier for him to then just add or subtract, yeah? Otherwise, I think we'd just be having this conversation at the next meeting.
And the meeting after
And
that.
the meeting after that. Okay. So I am now moving to item 13, which is the parish staff report. Is it just a note, please?
Yeah. Any questions?
Ray? Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillors' reports. Are councillors' reports?
Yeah, I don't have an awful lot, to be fair. There has been reports that there's been, racing going on with cars, and I did hear someone taking an abrupt twisty turn on the, lower roundabout last night. Of course, if residents do see anybody racing around the roads and trying to do donuts around the roundabouts, you know, if you can, please call the police and report this, the police will send out. If you can get the registration number as well, that's even more better. But yes, it seems that they're kind of doing bits around Ashford, and Friday, a couple of weeks ago, they came back onto Park Farm again. So another one is, we've got a local resident in Park Farm South who has, she's a complete diamond of a person, known by an awful lot of residents, and really does a lot for community, particularly in her street. She has just recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she has a child who is of a vulnerable age. So the community are getting together, they're creating a fundraiser, I believe, in Sandy Acres in August. They're ringing around different organisations to put on entertainment and do raffle prizes. I have contacted the main person who posted this update on Park Farm Community and said that they could possibly get in contact with the parish council to maybe run something in the cafe. So I have put the manager's email address there, but if you do get that, then there's an update on there. But it'd be nice if we could do something and just say that this is a community space and you're welcome to utilise it for any raffle, or if you want people to drop off raffle prizes, it can be done here, for instance. But yeah, so as a community, we all send her the best. She's a fantastic person. And really sad that this has happened. But yeah, any more information I'll pass on to the parish.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think everybody sees the chief executive's briefings that come round, and I don't think there's any more to add to that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Cosgrove?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We had the account on the 27th of May, which were elected the new officers. So Peter Barker continues to be the chair. Councillor Paul Bartlett is the vice chair. There's two representatives on the council exec committee. There's a chap called Tony and myself. We can now go and find out what the exec's talking about. The JTB is a change. It's Chris Morley from Kennington, Christian Drury and myself. And the ABC stands is Paul Bartlett and Chris Morley. The police gave a general update And the question I've got out there, do we need a knife amnesty bin in our area?
Really don't.
Knife amnesty bin.
But there is one going in Viva, I believe.
Yeah.
They don't work though.
If we want one, just raise. The other matters for Kent ACRE still going on about that. The crowdfunding closes on the 30th of June, and so far they've only got £6,000 pledged out of 71,000 they need. That doesn't sound like it's going anywhere. The agency update was they're asking for statutory supplier strategies from the companies, from the utility companies. Local plan update, new timetable to be agreed, new consultation to restart with a new scoping exercise, and the end of 2027 seems an ambitious target. LGR waiting for July, but maybe September. County Health and Exec Committee, no correspondence. Other people have met. They're looking for a replacement secretary. So everyone knows a secretary. This is why I think County is a little bit in limbo at the moment. The lady's going to resign. But County needs to increase their fees basically because they can't afford it. JTB was on the 2nd of June. Asset whaling program with Mr. Barrett has spoke about. Operation Walk update. Maybe how. Going to be over Saturday, May bank holiday. Well, yeah, one that was over the bank holiday, 1,200 HGVs for health, and it was quite a successful operation. Expanding it, expecting it between mid-July and end of August to be very busy. So that's going to be blocked intermittently, he said, within those time frames. And it will remain for some years to come because there is no viable replacement, despite discussions with the DCP are ongoing. Mini block could move, so the junction 8 onset could remain open. Where they move the mini block down, further down.
Right.
So you can still get on junction 8, whereas now you can't get on junction 8, go back to the 7.
Yeah, there's lots of complaints that there was no lorries being queued and not all of the traffic, all of the car traffic being held up because of the operation properly.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be any problems at all.
Maintenance not available is going to be used for an airport too far from Dover, and they've ruled out the inland border facility for Brock as well because the French won't go anywhere near it. They're not allowed that side of Dover. Then we looked at the highway works program, which you've got a copy. The highway works program is quite long as a report, and it covers a lot of things in Kingsnorth. So I want to actually circulated, Pete. Might be useful. There's quite a lot of Kingsnorth roads in there. I asked you a question about the rear entrance of the inland water facility, which was they changed the postcode so people don't go down Church. It's not on Saturdays for people going in the back door, but and there's a whole re-signing strategy coming out. There's all new signs to tell them what to do properly. But it's all being implemented because there's a Pennsylvania Facebook group who urge all their members to go to the back door because they get sort of avoided 2-hour queue. You're not through, because they just get sent out again to join the back of the queue. It takes about 2 hours to turn around. Apart from that, Rutledge Avenue came up for some reason. Parking restrictions and on-street parking EV charging was noticed. So that was it. Yeah. And we had our meeting with someone else. Yes.
I don't know if people were interested, but there's going on the 27th, there's going to be a Pride athletics meeting at Julie Rose. Residents within the community might be interested in that. And I had noticed, I had to look at the new locks on the entrance park. And they're not very robust. In my opinion, they could be easily broken. And people could get onto the entrance part of the caravan if they wanted to.
Coming to that season again, aren't
So it might be somebody could have a word with them to say, can you get a more robust lock? Because the locks on there.
They put a new one on there after the last one got broken, didn't it?
The one previously, the latest one we had before, so it got changed by the people who changed it, was very robust and couldn't be the one that's on there now can be, and the way they suddenly they got chains at the bottom, an angle grinder soon get through those trains. So the whole thing is very risky.
Okay, you've had problems there in the past, okay.
Yeah.
So that's something to pass on to the supplier, I think.
Local farm, big up a concrete.
Right, moving on then, no more reports from councillors?
Quick one, they've got a policy now of removing dog bins, throughout the borough. So watch out your dog bin, and they won't replace them even with a litter bin. It seems so. I'm trying to fight this with Heather because they've removed one on Charter Road.
Well, I think they've been taking away the specific dog bins because they're all going to be combined with a normal bin because they all end up in the same place. But what you're saying is they're not replacing it with a normal bin.
No, no, so I've there's two bins very close to each other. I asked them to move one to this place, which is more strategic. And they won't even do that, so.
It's because it's on the route, isn't it? And then you have to change the route of where it is.
They're emptying the old one, they removed, so there wouldn't be any different route.
Complex, I think.
I don't know why they would be taking old bins and not replacing them though, because they would be ordering the new bins to put in there.
Okay,
Good point you made there.
right, noted. So we then move on to the action sheet. The only thing that I felt was missing off the action sheet, which I'm very pleased to discuss, is the creation of the focus group, which we're picking up in the newsletter. Anybody else, just a note? Okay, I'm going to close the public part of the meeting at 9:20 p.m. We will go into closed session to get an update on our list. Thank you very much.